I can't say for sure, but I'm sure that some of you did something wrong last week. Why else would you have to put up with me preaching for 2 weeks in a row? Well, offer it up for penance. Maybe you'll get some time off purgatory. Since this is a repeat performance, I'm going to begin this week's homily on the Feast of the Holy Family by repeating what I said about the Feast of the Most Holy Name at the beginning of last week's homily. Today's feast is relatively new. Devotion to the Holy Family began in Canada during the 17th century. In 1893, Pope Leo XIII approved the celebration of a feast in honor of the Holy Family in those dioceses that requested it. In 1921, Pope Benedict XV inserted it into the calendar of the Universal Church on the Sunday following the Feast of the Epiphany. What led to that rise in devotion to the Holy Family and to the institution of an annual feast in its honor? The answer is sad, but obvious. As the value of marriage and family life began to be called into question, the Church promoted devotion to the Holy Family to stress the value of these divine institutions. The introduction of no-fault divorce, which was touted as a great boon to society, has led many people to think of marriage as a temporary institution. Some couples have even altered the traditional marriage vows to say, "I take you to be my wife or my husband," to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as we both shall love. If therefore we fall out of love, well, all bets are off. The practice of artificial birth control made the cohabitation of couples without benefit of clergy popular, and in the long run diminished the importance of children. Many married couples think of children as a burdensome limit on their quality of life. Now we have couples who proudly refer to themselves as dinks. Double income, no kids. In recent times, feminists have come to see men as playing a very limited role in the generation and raising of children. They regard marriage as an outmoded institution. For such people, family is an ill-defined term that refers to anyone who is currently involved in your life. That vision is an open contrast with the Christian concept of a family that sees it as the enduring union of one man and one woman. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says, "A man and a woman, united in marriage, together with their children, form a family." This institution is prior to any recognition by public authority, which has an obligation to recognize it. It should be considered the normal reference point by which the different forms of family relationships are to be evaluated. You are all familiar with the old saying, "A picture is worth 10,000 words." The image of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph helps us to grasp the beauty and the importance of marriage and family life on an emotional level that no catechism definition can. In its radiant simplicity, it gives us an insight into one of life's fundamental values. As true as that may be, the particular image of the Holy Family that the Church chooses to place before us on this feast day is that of a family struggling to understand itself. When Jesus was 12 years old, Our Lady and St. Joseph, whom St. Luke consistently portrays as observant Jews, took Jesus to Jerusalem on their annual Passover pilgrimage. 12 was the age when a boy was considered bound to observe the law of Moses. Though this may not have been Jesus' first Passover pilgrimage to Jerusalem, he now fulfilled the commitment that every adult male Jew had to go to Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Passover. Jerusalem is about 80 miles from Nazareth. So that's scary to many people. It would take 4 or 5 days to walk that distance. The Holy Family would have made that journey with a group of friends and relatives. When they reached the holy city, they either camped out or found lodging with friends or relatives who lived in Jerusalem. The festival lasted for 7 days. When it was over, the various groups that had come to Jerusalem left for home. St. Luke does not tell us why, but Jesus decided to stay behind when his family left for home. Instead of joining the caravan headed for Nazareth, he went into the temple and sat down among a group of teachers who were lecturing to their students and other interested members of the public. Now, I am aware that I am talking to a mixed group of people. Some of you are well versed in traditional Catholicism. Others may be new to the Latin Mass. For the sake of those who are new to traditional Catholicism, let me say that the story we are looking at is the fifth joyful mystery of the Rosary. Those who say the Rosary every day meditate on what is called the finding of the child Jesus in the temple on a regular basis. I've been doing it for 50 years. As I do so, I talk to Jesus. I ask him, what was on your mind? What did you ask the teachers? And how did you respond to their answers? He doesn't answer me. I'm sure that if I make it into heaven, he will, but by asking those questions, I grow in understanding. Since this incident happened at the end of a Passover celebration, I wonder if Jesus had questions about the Lamb whose blood saved his people from the angel of death. Was he, at 12, aware that he was the Lamb of God? Had he begun to sense that he would be called to sacrifice his life for the salvation of the human race? Was he aware that he was the bread of life who would sustain his people on their journey to the promised land of heaven? We know that the weight of the world rested on that child's shoulders. While Jesus was in the temple, the caravan from Nazareth traveled about 15 miles or so. At the end of the day's journey, Our Lady and St. Joseph noticed that Jesus was not in the group. As good, responsible 21st century parents, I'm sure you are shocked by that. Old guys like me are not. In the olden days, when I was young, not to mention first century Palestine, children frequently hung out in groups. Women walked together discussing women's concerns, and men walked together debating the important issues of the day. At the time of the evening meal, families came together to eat. It was then that Our Lady and St. Joseph noticed that Jesus was not in the caravan with them. In those days, travel at night was out of the question, too dangerous. It took them another day to walk back to Jerusalem. On the third day, as they wandered about the streets of the city, they went into the temple and found Jesus seated in the midst of the teachers, St. Luke tells us that they were astonished. As I meditate on this mystery, I often ask the Blessed Mother, what went through your mind on that day? Did you fear that something had happened to your son? She must have. But when she and St. Joseph found him, she did not seem too happy with him. Son, Our Lady said, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been searching for you with anxiety. The Blessed Mother's statement is that exactly what you would expect a mother who has just spent 3 days searching for her son to say. Every mother in this congregation understands that. Jesus' reply is completely unexpected and is the real center of this story. Why, he answered, were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? There are some who are shocked by that answer. It seems disrespectful to them, but I don't think it is. By the time he was 12 years old, Jesus had come to realize that he was the Son of the Father. I truly believe that he was genuinely surprised that Our Lady and St. Joseph did not realize that in the same way that he did. They knew that he was no ordinary child. From what Gabriel had said to them, they probably thought he was the Messiah. But how could they know that he was the incarnate Son of God? It seemed that as Jesus grew, he became more clearly aware of who he was and consequently more docile to the Father's will. Now I would like to remind all of our young people that Jesus' growing self-awareness did not lead him to rebel against his parents. St. Luke says he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. In that, he was very different from the typical smart-mouthed, self-willed child that we see portrayed on TV and in the movies. My dear young people, in the long run, you will be much happier if you take Jesus as your model rather than the pop culture's impudent child. There will come a day when you will grow up and leave home to start your own life. But in the meantime, you will be wise to enjoy the blessings that God gives you in your family. No human family is perfect, and no human family begins as a perfectly integrated unit. Just as Jesus, Mary, and Joseph grew and developed in their understanding of themselves and of each other, so every family grows and develops as its members struggle to understand themselves and one another. On the Feast of the Holy Family, the Church invites every husband, every wife, every mother, every father, and every child to enter that process with confidence in God and with love for one another. In today's Gospel, St. Luke tells us that his mother kept all these things in her heart. I would encourage all of you to follow her example. As your own family grows and develops, turn to God in your heart and ask him to help you respond in a loving way to the people with whom you share your life. St. Luke tells us that Jesus advanced in wisdom and age in favor before God and man. If the Son of God was willing to embrace the human challenge to grow in wisdom, we too should strive to do that. In prayer, we should seek God's help to become better spouses, better parents, better children. Being part of a family is a privilege that God gives you. Take it from me, there may come a day when you no longer have a family. As long as you do strive to make that family a holy family.